What is going on, guys? Crowder here, and if you guys don't know who I am, I have won a world championship as a pro COD player. I am now the head coach of Atlanta FaZe, which has been the #1 CDL team in the pro COD world for like 4 or 5 years now. And on top of that, I just do a lot of tips and tricks when it comes to Call of Duty. So if you're on this channel, you're in the right place, and let's get to this Rebirth movement guide. And to start this video off, we're going to be talking about movement settings before anything else, because everything in this video is all going to lead into the next section. So without the settings, you can't do all the movement tips and tricks that I'm about to give you. So without further ado, we're going to go to our settings right here on our controller. And the number one thing I'm going to start when it comes to movement is your dead zone inputs, which is right here. We're going to show more, and we're going to look at these dead zones here, and we're only going to be talking about movement purposes. If you want to watch aim tutorials or other stuff like that, I recommend going on to a different video and whatnot. But for this one right here, we're going to be talking about the left stick dead zones. The minimum is at 0, depending on the controller you have. Some you might have to do like a 1, 2, or a 3, depending on stick drift and all of that. But on top of the 0, we're going to have the left stick max, which is just basically going to mean that your left stick hits the maximum potential at 65% instead of 100. Most people have it at 99 or 100. But if you're going to hit the test dead zone here and see exactly what that looks like, basically you could see that this red line right here is going to be the max like speed that you can get. So when you're tack sprinting or auto tack sprinting, which we're about to get into, you want to hit that as fast as possible. Now, some controllers can't handle 65, so I'd recommend 75 or 85, like whatever you can do. But Call of Duty is a game of milliseconds, and anything kind of helps, especially these settings. So basically, when you push your left stick all the way to there, you're going to be hitting your max like tack sprint or your max movement speed. So this does help your movement speed with tack sprint, and it also does help your strafing speed left and right. You want to be able to strafe left and right in gunfights, which we'll talk about later as well. And these settings right here are going to help. So I recommend trying to find the best settings for your controller on your left stick with 0 to 65. And then of course, if you have to up them a little bit, it's not the end of the world. So that's number 1 right there. Number 2 is going to be over here on the movement behaviors setting. It's going to be the automatic sprint. Now, automatic tactical sprint is very, very important because you always want to be able to hit your slide cancels and stuff like that, which you're about to learn into this video, and of course some more advanced movements as well. And auto tactical sprint just saves your controller's lifespan of not always having to double click it in, and just in general it makes it very, very easy to run around. So I definitely recommend using automatic tactical sprint. And now this slide maintain sprint, I'm going to have this off, and I'm going to explain this when I'm teaching you the slide cancel of why I have this off. So keep that in mind for now. I do keep that off for a good reason, and then everything else you can talk about is just basically going to be off here. Grounded mantle is for more of an advanced movement. We'll get to that a little bit later. I personally don't play with grounded mantle on, but it is definitely very fun to use, but I'll explain that a little bit later as well. So I keep that off for myself, and these are all what I use. And then sliding and diving behavior is the last thing we're going to talk about before we get into the fun stuff. I am going to be switching to hybrid, and that just basically allows you to have the tap, the slide, but also being able to dive as well, and not have that super annoying delay when you do tap the dive or tap the slide. So never, ever, ever play on tap the slide or tap the dive, or dive only. Sliding is very important. I recommend if you're a lazy player, or again, if you're not really super advanced with movement, you don't really care that much, you can use slide only. But hybrid's definitely the #1 option, which we'll be talking about a little bit later in this video as well. With that being said, let's get into the fun stuff. And before we get into tip #1 of this video, I was talking about slide, maintain, sprint, and what that does. So you can see right now, as I'm running around, if I slide and I hold forward, I stay into a crouch if I don't touch anything, right? If you have the slide, maintain, sprint setting on, which is going to look like this, I'm holding forward, I hit the slide, and then if I do it, it pops up and it maintains that sprint, as you can see. Now, that's a cool setting, and you would think that you would really like that. But for one of the most important movement things I'm going to show you, or at least one of my favorite tactics to get kills, is weird because it's going to be this slide drop shot. So what it looks like is you slide, aim in, and then you try and drop. But with slide, maintain, sprint, it maintains that sprint. So you can't actually have that momentum from sliding and then dropping. So if you go to your settings again and you turn off slide, maintain, sprint, you're going to be able to see that if I slide, aim in, and then drop, I can actually drop. And of course, you have the controller down there, which you're going to see is going to show you that I slide, aim in, drop again. So it's basically your slide button, aiming in, or it doesn't have to be aiming into. You can technically slide and then drop on your own, but that would just kind of be weird. Or again, what you do is slide, aim in, and then hit your drop button again to drop into that. And it's a very good way to effectively just turn corners. This is a little bit more advanced, but we're just going to start this out because that is an important setting of the reason why I turn it off. So if I was turning corners here, you want to slide, aim in, and then drop like that. It's just nice to have, and drop shotting in games is just a very, very good way to have some people like kind of lose their iron sight. Like right now, if I was aiming at this window and someone were to slide and aim in and drop over here, you can see that, of course, he's going to be able to like get under my vision, and I'm not even going to be able to see that guy sometimes. So drop shotting is a very, very important tactic in general, which is just as you're shooting, you're holding your drop button and aiming in. It's very simple, very like, standard stuff. But with that being said, that slide maintaining sprint being off allows you to do that kind of movement that I just had right there. I recommend practicing that. But yeah, that's why I have that off, and that's why I don't keep that on or recommend it. If you don't think that's something you want to keep into your arsenal of just plays of how you want to get kills, I understand. But regardless, let's go to step number 1. And to start this video off, I know most of you guys watching this video know how to slide cancel, but this is just for everyone that's watching. There are still always going to be new players that play Rebirth Island and Warzone in general, so I have to go through the basics. This is the number 1 tip that you have probably learned a bunch, so if you're watching with us, we'll get to some of the advanced movement a little bit later. But right here, this is going to be the slide cancel, and for the sake of the video, right below my camera, right down there, there's a big controller on your screen that has all my movement. So if I touch my stick on the left side, you can see it's doing all the movements here. Same thing with the right, and obviously anything that I do right there. So that is also another way you can kind of visualize these movement tips I'm giving you. And we're going to start again. Very basic stuff. Slide canceling. All you have to do is push forward on your stick. And when you were sprinting in tac sprint like that, or even if you're in regular sprint, which is about to end here in a second, hold up. And you're in regular sprint, if you click your right stick in, you slide. So in order to slide cancel, what you want to do is slide and then pop up by hitting your jump button. I have a Battle Beaver controller, so I have a back button right there, but you can also use the regular jump button, which is going to be X, or again, whatever controller you have or whatever configuration you use. So right here, you're going to be running around like this, and you want to slide, jump. Slide, jump. And then once you have that down, which is very, very easy stuff, the next thing you kind of want to add into your slide cancel is controlling your slide length. So basically, you can do a short slide like that, which is very short slides. You can use those to shoulder and stuff. That's going to be helpful later in the video. You can do your longer slides like that, or if you're going down a staircase and you have momentum, you can slide like long off the staircases, or again, just like do a long slide and then obviously aim and do that stuff, which is going to be helpful depending on how you want to finesse and obviously the momentum that you have in the gunfight. If you see someone close corner, you might want to do a long slide and like turn a wide corner on there. Or if you want to catch them off guard, you want to do a short slide and catch them like that by obviously cutting off your slide. So all you're doing when you're cutting your slide is just popping that jump button as fast as possible or letting it go and then popping up. Now, slide cancel variation number 3, which is going to be a little bit more helpful too, which you see a lot of good players do, is the slide aim in and then jump. And the only reason why this is a good variation is that it's just more helpful and you're more ready for gunfights. So obviously, if you're just sliding around like this, you're not aimed in. And of course, you can play from the hip like that. But eventually, you're going to have to aim in, which it would be looking like something like this, where you'd be hip firing first and then obviously aiming in, which is not a bad tactic. But if you know someone is around that corner and you really want to just try and get that gunfight, or some people just prefer the slide cancel method because it helps them aim. Everyone's different. That's why I'm showing you this. Is what you want to do is you want to slide, aim in, and then jump. And in this right now, I don't have the tactical boots on. We are in a multiplayer lobby for the sake of obviously just not getting shot a bunch. But this is what it would look like in Warzone. So let me just, let me get these boots on real quick. And what it's going to look like is going to be slide, aim in, and then jump like that. So if you ever wanted to turn a corner, you can slide, aim, and jump. Slide, aim, jump. And again, it's just going to be very easy for you to be like ready for gunfights. So instead of just, doing that, you can do that. And you can actually shoot while you're sliding as well. So you can be sliding, aiming, and shooting all at once you master this. So that's your slide cancel in a nutshell. That is the basic movement in Call of Duty that you're absolutely going to need. And now let's get to some other stuff to help you out in Rebirth. Now that we know what slide canceling is, now you're going to have to learn how to really properly use the slide cancel. And what I mean by that is, of course, when you're running around the map, you want to be sliding around and slide canceling, always being ready for gunfights and stuff. That's always going to be helpful. But one of the biggest mistakes I see in Call of Duty players alone that are just trying to learn and get better is they know how to slide cancel. That's the basics, but they don't know when to do it necessarily. And we're going to be talking about camera braking here in a second. But first, we're just going to be talking about kind of what I mean by what I just said. And what I mean is a lot of the times, if there was like an enemy around the corner, say that's the enemy right there, and you obviously know he's around that area. If you're going to turn the corner, you're going to run into a gunfight, right? And you know that. So of course, you're going to slide cancel and try and kill him. And if you watch that exact slide cancel right there, that's actually not what you should do. If you notice in that clip, I started sliding right around here, and I slid and then aimed in and then shot, right? And what I just showed you is you could, of course, do your slide, aim, and shoot at the same time. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the fact that I started my slide after I turned this corner of cover, and this guy has visibility to me. So if this guy was aiming at this corner and you started sliding right here, he's already going to be shooting you and probably expecting you to slide and be able to track you. It's going to be an easier kill for him, and it's not going to catch him off guard. And when you are sliding, you are moving the fastest that you can when you turn a corner, which is going to go into our camera break section here in a second. So instead of sliding when you obviously turn the corner and you're out of the cover, you want to slide before the cover. And then, of course, you can obviously control the length of the slide with that. So instead of it looking like this and going like that, it should look something like this, where you slide a little bit earlier and you're already shooting. And since you're moving so fast in Call of Duty while you're sliding, and you do it before cover, you're going to be moving as fast as possible as you turn the corner. You're going to move so fast that he's not going to be able to react right away. You're going to have that peeker's advantage, and then you're going to be able to actually get bullets off before he can even react, and it's going to give you that advantage in those gunfights. And then, of course, you're going to be able to strafe left and right from the slide, so it can look something like this, left and right. You can obviously do a longer slide like this, and then it's going to even catch him off guard with that, and you can wide strafe that. And there's so many different variations that you can do once you understand like when you want to slide cancel. So one of the biggest things I see is someone trying to slide after they turn the cover. It's just very clunky, and then you're wondering why you always like feel like you get first shot, but you don't. It's because you're actually messing up the slide. So again, if there was cover here, what you would want to do is slide before the cover and then shoot. And the same thing here. You wouldn't want to wait until you turn the corner, and if there was someone to the left and then slide and go like that, you would obviously want to make sure as the cover's ending, you want to slide like that. And then it's the same thing over and over again. If you want to obviously head glitch like this area right here, instead of, you know, kind of like going there and then sliding and head glitching, which would be very, very hard in general, you would want to slide into the cover and then pop up. So slide into the cover and then pop up. And that's going to help you out a lot when it comes to obviously just controlling your slides and understanding when to use them. So hopefully that little tip helps you. Let's move on to the next section. Actually, we can kind of just keep this the same section, because what I just explained is kind of what I'm about to explain next, and it's camera breaking. So again, if there is someone aiming at this corner like this, right, and they're playing a very, very just like weird angle like this, they're kind of playing like a tighter angle, and they're kind of waiting for you to turn the corner. If you turn the corner slowly as a walk, he's going to get the easiest kill in the world. He's going to know exactly where you are. The only way you can combat that is if you were to like kind of try and aim where you would predict them, you would center, which we're going to talk about in a second. And then if your centering's there, you can maybe camera him, because again, you're going to be able to turn the corner before he can react. The peeker's advantage in COD is a very real thing, especially with ping and terrible Call of Duty servers, of course. What you want to really do is always turn that corner as fast as possible. And as I was just explaining, you want to slide into those a lot of the times. And sometimes you don't always have to slide as well. Sometimes you also can just turn the corner fast, so as a sprint, so a tactical sprint like that. You can do that. You can always, you know, turn the corner fast and then drop shot as well. There's so many different ways to turn that corner when you're camera breaking that right there. And basically what a camera break actually is, just to give you a really quick explanation, is you're turning the corner so fast that they're not going to be able to keep up or even sometimes see you or react by the time you're able to shoot. So sometimes even when you're sliding into people, if you slide fast enough and like they're holding an angle like this and they're holding that, if you were to come from this angle and they're holding that, you can slide under their aim and break their camera and get that kill as well. So there's a bunch of different ways you can, you know, break the cameras. It's not all about sliding, but it's going to be very, very helpful. Next tip I'm going to be showing you guys is what I call the shoulder peek. Again, a very basic tip, but it's going to be very, very helpful. And of course, if there was, you know, enemies over here, out here, and you're not too worried about, like, or you're kind of worried about what's going on, a big thing that I'm going to show you in actual Rebirth here in a second too, when I kind of get into there, of like what people do is they kind of just like run out, they see someone, they're like, oh my God, and they try and like, you know, stamp on that guy and get a kill. And a big thing when you're kind of playing Rebirth, and especially if you're like holding positioning in Rebirth, is just how you want to shoulder peek stuff. And it's not always just like, you know, shouldering out to the right and then being able to shoulder out. You see that enemy, then you could center him and then obviously peek here. So if you were shouldering like this and you see that guy, or you're shouldering like this and you're kind of like snaking up and stuff like that, and you see that guy, you want to be able to like be like, oh, I see an enemy. You can now center him and then pop up, and you're going to be closer to him. So centering and shouldering are very, very important. And centering is just like where you're going to keep your aim there. That's more of an aiming tip that's in my aim videos. I recommend watching that. If you have not watched the how to aim video, all of those tips of how to aim are really, really good to combine with the movement tips I'm giving you in this Rebirth Island video. So definitely watch that one as well if you haven't watched that. But yeah, so centering and shouldering is very important. So what you want to do is you want to shoulder. Now, if you shoulder and see someone, or again, you want to slide cancel shoulder, and then you want to go back here to the left and then slide cancel shoulder. See how I turn this corner? I'm able to pull back. If you do that quick enough and you slide cancel shoulder and you do it again, and then you get a little bit farther and you don't see anything, then you see someone, you're like, oh shit, I can pop up and now I can get a kill. So slide canceling shouldering, regular shouldering is a very good way to get info and momentum, so you can kind of make that decision in your head of what you want to do next. So if I was like pushing in this building, I don't see anything there, I shoulder that. I shoulder it again. I don't see anything. Now I long slide, because if they're in this building, the only other place they can really be is here or here. So again, you could do the same thing, obviously backwards. You want to shoulder here. I don't see anything. I still don't see anything. I'm shouldering. Shoulder here. I don't see anything. I can like shoulder back, pull back. And then as I do that, I've done that so quick that if there was a guy laying here, he would see me for a second. He wouldn't hit me with the bullet because it would be too quickly. He would probably shoot because he gets scared. And now I'm right here. He shoots. Now what do I want to do? I can cut here and do that. I can cut back and go like this. There's so many different ways to now use those camera breaks I just showed you and all that stuff to kind of just use that information obviously wisely. So shouldering and just learning how to master the slide cancel and obviously get your information is really good as well. And then it goes along with centering and stuff too. So that's a pretty big tip that's very underrated in Rebirth. And it's the same thing too, where if you are playing Rebirth and you're like on a rooftop and you obviously don't want to shoulder, you know, left because you can just like strafe out. It's also like jumping and stuff too. It's not just like shouldering, obviously, with your shoulder peaks like left and right. You can obviously jump up here. So if you see someone there, I can jump up there. I can shoulder them there. I can jump up there again. When you're on the rooftop, you can back off. Obviously, you know, you can kind of come to like this heady and jump like that and just keep doing this over and over. You're spotting to look for people. And then say I see someone over there. Now it's like, do I want to hop up and use this angle, or do I want to slide cancel and use that angle? And that's very, very important too. So all those tips that I kind of just showed you with shouldering is something that most good players do naturally without even thinking because they've done it so much. Let's move on to the next tip. Now that we've showed you basically all the main basic tips that you're going to need, the last thing I want to do is just go over how to dive. And that is going to be important because I'm about to show you in an actual Rebirth game, all these tips kind of come to fruition here. But if you go to your slide dive behavior, like we just talked about earlier in the video, and you put it on hybrid, the difference is now is if I'm running and I slide and I jump, I can slide cancel, right? Very simple. I can run, slide, jump. But if you notice on the controller, I'm not clicking my left stick in. When I click a button in my controller, it lights up green, just like that. So you can see here, I'm sliding and jumping, and now I'm sliding, aim in, jumping, sliding, aim in, jumping. I can always do that. But if you're playing on hybrid, if you're doing this and you click your left stick in and then hit your right stick, you actually dive. So hybrid is a very, very nice combination that is where you can obviously, you know, have different ideas of like, oh, I want to dive, I'm going to hold my left stick in. Oh, I want to obviously not dive, I'm not going to hold my left stick in. And if you can control that, it's a very good thing, especially for Warzone players. Oh, I want to dive, left stick in. I don't want to dive, I'm not going to do that. And it's really good for dolphin diving, for parachuting, and other stuff in Warzone specifically. That is good, but you can very easily not use that setting if you're someone that, like, I know a lot of people that play ATS, they hold their controller really tight or they get really intense into the moment, and they're always clicking that left stick in for no reason. If you're doing that, you might dolphin dive on accident, and that can get you killed. So that is not something you absolutely need, but if you want to master movement at the highest level, that is something I recommend obviously trying. So it's very simple. It's the same exact setting. If you're not clicking that left stick in, you can obviously slide. If you're clicking and holding that left stick in like this, you're going to dive. So that is what hybrid is. And we have one more tip that I have to show you on the Rebirth map, and then I'm going to show you all of these tips while narrating my gameplay come to life in just a regular game of Rebirth, and hopefully this helps you get better. Let's go. Now, the next two things I'm going to be showing you is on the big map. Rebirth solos was kind of just like taking forever, and I couldn't do it in quads, and honestly, what I'm about to show you in a quiet area and plunder is just a little bit easier. But regardless, when you're moving around the map, number one, very simple. Instead of just sliding around all that, first of all, you should always be sliding, jumping, and moving around, sliding around, and that stuff like that. Because if there's anyone in the building that you don't know, you have to be a harder target. And timing your slides and staying close to cover is really important. If I was running to this building, instead of just running through this way, I would probably like run through this way, hold that, go through these bushes to have some visibility, go through the rocks just in case someone's on my right, go to this truck, and then obviously make my way to the building. So always using cover and always using just your slides and stuff is very important. And then if you're sprinting around and you jump and then slide, so you jump, slide, and then you slide into that, jump, slide, you obviously cover a little bit more ground when you were just sprinting around. So when you're on Rebirth, especially a very mixy map like that, you always want to be making sure you're using your slides, hopping on top of stuff, jumping, sliding, and just being very mobile because you always want to make your opponent miss their shots. And now the last and final thing, which is more of an advanced tip that I'm going to show you, and then we have one bonus tip, is going to be this zipline mechanic. Ziplining mechanics on Rebirth, especially by the prison area, is very, very important. And what you want to do is basically about 75% of the zip line, you want to hit your jump key. So instead of it looking like this, which I don't touch anything, you need to go right into that. So basically what you guys want to do is when you're going up the zip line, you want to wait till like 75-85% of the zip line. So every zip line length is going to be different. You have this one, that one over there, and you want to jump and you want to hit this when you can, and then push forward on your stick, and you go right through it with no mantle. And that is probably one of the most important tips when it comes to just playing Rebirth Island, is using those zip lines effectively. And that's definitely more of an advanced tip, right? So when you're doing this, you want to make sure you're hitting that jump. Then you obviously can go right through it very, very easily. And the other way you can do that as well is you can obviously be on the zip line here, and you can, you know, time your jump a little bit later, and then jump, and then try and mantle on top of that as well. It's not a bad way to kind of go through that. So if I was fighting this guy right here, I'm going to try and use some movement tips that I was just showing you. So I'm shouldering that guy to get information. I'm going to dolphin dive and pull my chute to get a little bit more of just like a idea of where this guy's at, right? So now I'm going to land on top. I'm going to try and get some more info on where this guy is. I'm going to drop down. I see that guy to my right. I slide the cover. I have this. I slide the cover again. I see these guys pushing. I make this guy isolated in the back one shot. Now I'm going to slide here. Shoulder this way. Shoulder this way. slide before cover, and I'm going to get that easy kill right there. So now you can see there, breaking down these players is all off of shouldering and movement, as I was just able to isolate a 1v1 from shouldering. I saw that guy pushing my right. I was able to, you know, kind of finesse, and then I slid before cover and challenged that guy. So you can even see at a very basic level that that movement right there is the reason why I was able to get 2 kills on top of my aiming. And then if you're going to work a different zipline like I was about to show you, you can obviously just, you know, time the zips a little bit differently. You're going to have to jump off a little bit faster on those. So there's a bunch of different ways you can kind of work these zip lines. It's pretty cool, especially on Rebirth Island. You know, there's so many different ways you want to do it. And especially if you always want to just get some information, you can kind of jump, see something, you see something up there, you want to jump off that, you can shoot some shots and then land back there with Mountaineer as well with the perk, so you can not take no damage. So that's probably the most advanced tip I would show you when it comes to obviously just showing off the mechanics. And then there's one bonus one that I'm going to show you, but for now, let's see if we can break down this squad with some movement. So, all right. We don't have stims. We don't have anything. I saw that guy in that window. I'm going to get that kill. Now I'm going to slide away. I'm going to use my movement shoulder. I don't see anything. I'm going to be going up here. There's a guy shooting behind me. I'm going to hit a reload. I'm going to shoulder the stairs. Jump on the stairs. I don't see anything below me. Now, again, I'm going to keep using my movement here to make sure that I have nothing. Long slide down the stairs. Shoulder. I hear some footsteps. I just don't see him. Going for the res. I saw that guy in the res here. I'm going to slide. I'm going to jump out. Slide before cover. I hear him running on the other side of the building. Going to run towards this way. And again, I don't see anything now. It looks like I've lost him. Now this guy's just kind of panicked. He's running away. Easy kill. So again, you can see that while I'm in this building, you're just always going to try and make sure that you are getting information, shouldering. Now I'm going to center. Now I can take those shots. I don't like that angle, so now I'm going to switch it up. Now I'm going to shoulder this. I see him there, but instead of giving him that, I'm going to shoulder here again. Shoulder there. Wait a second or two. My centering is right there, perfectly on him, and you can see I can get that first bullet off like that just because it's pretty easy. So now another person, I think, just landed near me, and now I have him here. So I'm going to use these pillars, shoulder this pillar, jump out to the side, and get an easy kill. Obviously, these are not the best players, but you can even see me using something as small as that pillar is going to help me get that kill as I slide around. So I'm going to keep using my movement here. I'm going to bust open the door. I see that shoulder. Now I can reposition here. I get that kill. Dive off and dive forward, and boom. So all of these kills that I'm getting, as much as these are not the best players, I'm able to use my movement to make them miss their shots. And most of the people that play Call of Duty, if you can relate to this, aren't the best players because they're not playing Call of Duty 8 hours a day. So if you're able to just master basic movement of what I'm showing you and just doing all that when you're playing Rebirth and you're playing Big Map, it's going to help you a lot. So hopefully all of these tips were kind of just helpful, and you can see them come to life a little bit right there. And now let's show you one bonus tip before we end this video. Let's see if this guy does his zipline mechanic. He does not. He fails our test. And for this last bonus tip, what I was going to show you guys earlier is we were talking about ground and mantle. Now, I don't use this just because it personally just affects my gameplay a little bit more than it doesn't. But if you find stuff that is basically like half of your height, we have to find something about half my height, like this table or anything of the sort. If you mantle on that, you can jump off it and strafe jump. Like you like kind of like throw yourself up onto this table by mantling. And then when you mantle while you're sprinting, you have to be sprinting into this. You kind of like jump off of it, and you can do like a pretty long strafe jump too. Now, there's a bunch of different ways you can use that. As you can see, if you wanted to challenge someone and you see like someone that's kind of messing up, it's going to make them miss their shots because it's such an awkward movement. And then you can obviously just do some pretty crazy chows from there too. So that's a bonus tip. Again, I'd recommend that if you're much more of an advanced player. I don't even really use that one too much because a lot of the times, like when I'm trying to like play for cover and I sprint in, I kind of just like grounded mantle over things on accident. So it's something where it's definitely a risk that could be a heavy reward if you're really good with it. I know players like FaZe, Neo, and other people are really, really good at that, and some of the more advanced players too. So there's some cool stuff you can do with it. And of course, you can obviously get those super speed jumps in as well, as just to help you out a little bit. On Rebirth, there's not too many things I do that with on that map. I'm not a crazy expert when it comes to that specific movement. I'm obviously never going to lie to you guys in my videos. So hopefully these tips and tricks helped. If they did, drop a like on the video as always, and let me know what you guys want to see next when it comes to just learning how to play the game better. And guys, I stream every day, so if you have questions you guys want to ask me in real time about just certain things, feel free to drop by on the YouTube stream or the Twitch stream, and I'll be there. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and as always, it's been your boy Crowder, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.